For the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world, we are live and amplified. So let's get ready to podcast.
Fire it up.
The move and the layout and all that stuff. You're our third interview for the Pancreatic Cancer fundraiser, and I appreciate you. And this one's going to be a little bit different because you're the first band today that I know very little about or haven't interviewed prior. So
very good.
Really excited to chat with you.
Cool.
But yeah, so first off, thank you so much for jumping on. Really appreciate it. Like I'd mentioned, this is a fundraiser to raise pancreatic cancer awareness. And the best way I knew how to do it was to torture myself with doing a lot of podcasts in a very short amount of time, because the podcast was my mother's favorite thing. I lost my mother in July of this year to pancreatic cancer. And so,
I remember seeing that.
You know, it's just one of those things where she enjoyed listening to the podcast, and yeah, so I figured I'd just torture myself the best way I knew how.
Very good. Hope you got some coffee brewing.
What's that?
Hope we got some coffee brewing.
Yeah, luckily, not luckily, there's a few last minute cancellations in there, and you know, it was just kind of like, okay, cool, I'll take a half-hour break. I don't mind.
Yeah, there you go.
You know? So first off, let's have you introduce yourself and tell me a little bit about Oxen Fury.
Cool. So my name is Scott Butler. I started Oxen Fury about 10 years ago, just kind of as a side project to what I was doing at the time, which is a band called Degrees of Sanity. I just decided I wanted to kind of do my own project, and was going to play all the instruments on it, bass, guitar, drums, everything, and decided I probably should find a real drummer, because I can play, but not that well. And found this guy, Josh Tarrant, who was playing in a band called Random Hero at the time, and went and saw him live. They were actually opening for Adrenaline Mob, which is with Russell Allen from Symphony X and Mike Portnoy from Dream Theater. So they were opening for them. And I saw after the show, I was like, hey man, I got this project going on, I'm working on, and we'd love to have you be a part of it. And so he joined up, and we've done, we did a record not too long after that. And then about 7 years later, just last October, we released another one. So it's
Awesome.
it's been a journey.
For sure. And then where are you guys based out of?
Out of Denver, Colorado.
Okay. That's how I found you, because somebody was posting, there's a bunch of shows happening up there, and your name popped up on one of the flyers, or it just happened to be recommended through some of the other bands that I was trying to figure out how I got introduced to you originally, but that's definitely how it was. Now that you mentioned that you're from Colorado. So as far as music going, how long, or what was your introduction into music, or who got you introduced to music?
Wow. Like from the beginning?
Yeah, from the beginning.
Well, let's see here. Well, I always grew up, there was always music playing in my house. My dad would always listen to bands like Kiss and Bachman Turner Overdrive and Bad Company, Queen, things like that when I was growing up. So I always kind of liked, hearing a lot of the music. And then the real thing that really got me interested was probably like a lot of metal guys is Metallica.
Mm-hmm.
I was 11 years old. I discovered the Black Album, and I saw Hetfield playing his guitar and singing with his long hair as an explorer. I was like, that's what I want to do. That is awesome.
Nice.
So, and then my life has changed ever since, changed the world as I know it. And that's not overstating it.
Hey, that's good though. Like just being open and music changing your life. That's not necessarily a bad thing, to say the least.
Sure.
It's funny you brought up the Black Album, because that was one of my first introductions into music as well, or as far as like rock and I don't even want to classify it as classic rock, but just Metallica in general. So it was one of those deals where I was in the Boy Scouts, and I was camping, and one of the kids there. I was working in the kitchen and we had free run of the radio. So whatever we wanted to put on. And there was this one kid that he would never stop playing Led Zeppelin and the Black Album from Metallica. So it was like those two songs for 2 weeks straight. And I was at the point where I was like, I don't want to listen to this ever again, because, you know, you listen to it for 2 weeks straight. It's just kind of like,
Sure.
you know, one of those deals. So, but luckily I grew out of that phase and I just started appreciating a lot of metal music in general, and still haven't gotten over the Led Zeppelin thing. I don't know what it is, but Metallica, I listen to them pretty regularly. So, but you know, it is what it is. And so what are you guys kind of working on now? Are you guys playing shows actively in Colorado, or?
We actually really haven't played live much at all. We've done a few little things here and there where some of the songs have been introduced, but most of what you hear on the albums have never been played live. But I've been filling in on bass for kind of my local hero band, the guys that kind of took us under their wing when I first came out of high school, and they were looking for a bass player. So I've been filling in for them. Their singer actually did a guest vocal on my last record. And so I've been playing with them, and they said at their next show, they'd like to play a Thousand Oxen Fury song. So that'll be kind of fun.
Nice.
Yeah.
Is the hope for Thousand Oxen Fury to eventually play live shows, or?
It is. It's just, I got to find the right group of guys. You know, it's been crazy the past couple of years, obviously.
Yeah.
So we just started playing shows again. I played the show filling in with those guys opening for Jackal.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and they're talking about maybe doing another one opening for Doyle in March. So that'd be kind of fun. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I do want to put it all together and play some live shows, but just timing. It's got to be right.
Yeah, for sure. I completely understand. But I do, just to kind of shift gears a little bit, I want to thank you so much for jumping on. Like I'd mentioned, we are doing a fundraiser for pancreatic cancer research and awareness. So that brings me to the next question. Have you been affected by pancreatic cancer or cancer in general, or had anybody in your immediate circle of family and friends?
I haven't. I mean, I know some people that have been affected greatly by it, but I've been very blessed, and it really hasn't taken a huge toll on my life, my inner circle personally.
Gotcha.
But,
well, I appreciate you taking the time out of your Friday. It's so weird because I'm so used to working Fridays to say, like, for whatever reason, I woke up this morning and was like, oh, it's Saturday. And it's like, no,
right.
It's not. It's really not. So,
sure.
But I appreciate you taking the time to jump on here and chat for a bit.
Absolutely.
You know, it's one of those, like I'd mentioned, it's one of those things that my mom enjoyed listening to. And so we're just going to kind of ride it for what it is, and hopefully remind people to, if you're not feeling well or if you're pre-exposed to cancer, make sure you're getting yourself checked. I know now that my mom passed away from pancreatic cancer, that's another concern that I have to be worried about. I was already high risk for prostate cancer. So now it's just kind of like another thing that I got to go worry about.
Right.
So, you know, we're going to make it as much of a good thing as we can, like a wake-up call.
Sure. Sure. This is great. It's, you know, good. Kudos to you for doing this, man. Awesome. You're putting this together. So
yeah. And I appreciate you it's always kind of weird, especially on the first podcast, when it's something big like this. It's like, oh, I don't even know what we're going to really, because you can't prepare for 90 interviews. It's just kind of like, it's just like, oh, we're going to shoot the shit, you know, we'll make it work. So for Thousand Oxen Fury, you've only been together how long? You mentioned it earlier.
About 10 years.
About 10 years?
Yeah, it probably started right about 10 years. And like October of 2011 is when I first started putting it together.
Mm-hmm. And
then we went to the studio that February of 2012 and spent most of that year making the first record. Mm-hmm. And then we recorded the drums for the second record in 2014. Mm-hmm. And didn't release it till last year. So that took a little while.
Yeah. Hey, I mean, sometimes that happens. I completely understand. what was the original idea for Thousand Oxen Fury?
Well, it was mostly just I felt like I was kind of outgrowing some of the guys I was playing with, and no offense to them, but everybody's kind of going in their own directions. One guy got married, started having kids, and the other guy was kind of playing with other bands. And I was like, well, maybe I should just do my own thing a little more. I can do whatever I want and don't have a bunch of people saying, everybody's opinion. I made a record with Degrees of Sanity, which was fun. I'm proud of it, but it's like everybody was like, well, I don't like this. I don't like the way this sounds. I don't like this. Like, I got a vision, and it's, you're messing with it.
Yeah. So there wasn't like there was too many cooks in the kitchen almost.
Yeah. Everybody wants to stick their spoon into my pot.
Yeah. And,
So-
it's just one of those things where it's like, it's hard to put your foot down like that, but sometimes it just needs to happen.
Sure.
you
Right.
know?
Right.
And so, no, that's really cool. And then as far as the original vision for the band, was it always or was it always going to be a metal band, or what was the original vision for it?
Yeah, it was always going to be a metal band. I thought about I'd done metal for, since I played my first show when I was 13. In fact, I just celebrated the 25th anniversary of my first show, August 24th.
Oh, wow.
And I'm 39, so, you can do the math. I'm 13 years old when I did it. It wasn't good, but I played it.
That works.
No one else was doing it. So, so I thought about even doing some more mellow stuff. I like a lot of different styles of music, but I thought, I'm turning 30. Maybe I should, tone it down a bit. Then started working on that, and I was like, nah, I got to do metal. It's just, it's in my blood.
I 100% understood and agree. When it just calls, it's like, it makes sense.
It does.
It really does. And then, what's kind of the line? I'm assuming like there's been a lot of lineup changes over the last 10 years.
Amazingly, there has not. It's just because I got Josh to play drums on it. He played drums on both albums, and and then everything else is played by me. Mm-hmm. So I do bass guitar, all the vocals. And so, that's why it took so long, because I'm, the guy doing everything.
Yeah.
So I've talked to different people about possibly joining to play live shows and things like that, but nothing's really come together yet. So,
yeah. Well, you get to that point where it's like, it's hard to find people that are, you're 10 years deep into this. It's going to be hard to find people that are so committed. And we've had this conversation before on the podcast about like, at that point, you just make the band interchangeable. So like you book a show and it's like, okay, you have your core group of guys. There's a core group of guys that know your songs, but you just kind of cherry pick who you need or who's available for shows and whatnot, because there was an article released not long ago for like the rise of the project meets the downfall of the band, which was like a really interesting premise about bands becoming more interchangeable, which so
that's interesting. I'd like to read that.
yeah, I'll have to go. The only thing that sucked was it was like the Wall Street Journal, which was a really weird publication to publish an article. Was a really weird it's a really weird publication for an article like that. So it is what it is.
Right.
And then so I definitely think that's going to be that'll be an interesting thing for music moving forward, and something that you could definitely experience. So you could just kind of continue to front the band yourself, and then, as not fun as that sounds, where it's like everybody else is just kind of interchangeable.
Right.
At least it's an opportunity to get you out playing shows.
Very true.
Somewhat regularly.
Right.
But and then as far as like hopes and aspirations, where do you want to take the band? Or what's kind of the plan moving forward?
Well, I'd like to we're actually working on now, while somebody else is working on it, doing an orchestral version of one of our songs, which I think would be cool. There's a 21-minute long epic track on the first record that, I worked on for years.
Yeah.
Even was going to put it on a record I made years before that, but it just wasn't ready.
Yeah.
And so I'm pretty proud of that. And there's somebody that may be looking to do some orchestrations for that. So we might release that as a single or something. And then I want to play live, and then I'd like to make another record. I've kind of worked on a concept record since for the past 20 years or so, and on and off.
Yeah.
But I'd like to finally see that come to light. We'll see.
Yeah, for sure.
I've kind of outgrown most of that music, but it's put it all together. Different periods might make it interesting.
Yeah, it might be a biography of your life or something.
Sure,
that could be an interesting way to promote it.
Right.
And then, are you originally from Colorado, or did you move there later on in life? Where are you kind of from originally?
So I'm originally from California.
Okay.
I was born there, but I came to Colorado when I was 4 years old.
Okay.
So, I mean,
you're pretty much.
Yeah. People say, "Are you a native?" I'm like, "No, but when you're from 4," they're like, that counts. That's close enough.
Yeah, close enough. It's that's always a fun and weird conversation to have. It's like, I've been here since I was 3. Yeah, I wasn't born here, but I've been here long enough to know what's going on. So
I tell people I was born at a hospital that was right down the street from Disneyland. So that's why I'm such a fun guy.
Yeah. Nice. Oh man, that's funny. And then as far as like the band, obviously you're hoping to get out and play. I don't want to say touring, because that's not always the aspiration for some bands, but yeah, at least getting out playing shows. And then what's been about the what's been the hardest part about the pandemic and the music for you guys, or for you as a musician?
Well, it's funny. I was still working on the last record we did when the pandemic struck. So it was like, I had, there's one song at the end of the album that's got this big epic, parts go to it. And so I was going to bring in a bunch of my friends that are singers and have a choir. We wrote all the parts out, and like, here's it all is. And then this happened. So all of a sudden we can't get together. So I actually ended up doing the choir by myself. I just sang all the parts myself. We just layered it on top of each other. And then there were some high notes I couldn't hit that I had my wife sing.
Nice.
That was tough. I was looking forward to having a bunch of my friends come be involved with it. And then it just wasn't able to make that happen. And then as far as shows and things, I wasn't really playing shows. So, yeah. But I was able to do a couple of solo things, just playing acoustic guitar during the lockdown. So. Yeah.
Is that something that you do regularly? Will you go do an acoustic show, or is that just something you did because you kind of had to?
Yeah, I've done them a few times. Not too regularly, but once in a while. It's something fun to do. Mm-hmm. I get to include some of my slower, like ballady type songs from Thousand Oxen Fury, than any other bands that I've done. So, and then I'll throw in some bunch of covers.
Yeah. So you'd mentioned earlier that your second album you'd started recording in 2014, and then you didn't release it until last year.
2020, yeah.
2020. Why do you think it took it so long, or what was the holdup with that?
Well, a lot of it was funding. That was a big part of it. And then I don't know. It was interesting with the first record. I came into the studio with I had a clear vision. I was like, here are the songs we're going to do. Here's kind of the basic structure. They're not totally finished, but we're close. And the second one, I didn't go in with quite as much, vision. It was like, here's my ideas so far. And there was a lot more to kind of put them all together. And then there was I was waiting on some guest performers, which I actually got. I don't know. I have Tim Ripper Owens from he sang a Judas Priest and Iced Earth. Yeah. He does a guest vocal on my album.
Nice.
Yeah, it was just in fact, I was almost done with it. And then he posted on his Facebook page, anybody want me to guest on their record? I was like, oh, I do.
Yes, please.
So we replaced some of my vocals with his.
Nice.
And that was pretty cool. So I had to wait on that. And it was just like, even with the piano parts, there's some piano stuff. And we did a Sabotage cover, which needed to have the piano. And I was waiting on a few people that said they'd do it, and they flaked out. So I finally just figured it out myself.
I feel like that's a very common thing, is like you're trying to make your life easier by delegating things that you're not as good as, and then you
Sure.
end up doing it yourself because people end up flaking out or, whatever.
Right.
So,
It sounds like I know what I'm doing, but we recorded just the left hand and then just the right hand. Put it together. I'm like, hey,
it works. It works. It works. That's awesome.
Right.
But I want to thank you so much for jumping on here. It's been an absolute blast sitting here to chat, and hopefully once the next project, whatever it may be, whether it's the orchestral piece, the next album, whatever you got going on, hopefully we can get you on and do a full deep dive in-depth interview, because obviously with 30 minutes, it's kind of hard
Right.
to
Absolutely.
jump
That'd
into
be great.
that.
That'd be great. That'd be great.
Yeah, for sure. Because I know we've played, I don't have the list of songs, but we had it's so weird to say we had because we just got canceled yesterday.
Oh, really?
We had our radio show that we did out in Roswell, New Mexico.
Sure.
We got a note saying, hey, the station's switching over to a Spanish station, so we have no need for your services anymore. And it's like, oh, that's depressing. But
Right.
I know we've played one or two of your songs throughout the weeks that we ran for like 30 some odd weeks. So that's a pretty good stretch for us. At least I would say. So look forward to playing more of your music once we get back on air. We'll find a home. I know we will.
Yeah, I'm sure you will.
So, but before we wrap up this segment of the interview, I do want to ask you a random question. Every interview we do gets a random question off of my random party question generator.
I saw the first two. I was watching.
Awesome. And yours actually kind of fits into being a musician. How many instruments can you play?
Oh, man. Should be how many instruments can you play well? Let's see here. I can play, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll say 5.
Okay. What are they? Obviously guitar.
So guitar, I guess I'll say bass, even though it's kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
Drums, keyboard, and then I'm actually can play the recorder pretty well.
Nice.
I bought a nice wooden one because I thought, oh, look at this, it'd be so cool. And actually, I'm not great at it, but
yeah,
probably better than most of the the elementary school kids you see.
Yeah. Do you break it out when you want to give people flashbacks to 4th grade?
Yes. Yeah.
Because we're about the same age, and it's like you brought out the recorder. It's like, man, I don't want to go back to 4th grade. I don't want to deal with that.
I heard a guy on I think it was the band Rhapsody of Fire. They had an orchestra with them, and they had a guy playing the recorder on one part and just killing it. I was like, that's really cool.
Nice.
I don't know if they'll ever get to that level, but
yeah, like I mean, when you can actually play it, it's pretty impressive. But when you're a 4th grade teacher just trying to keep time, it's just
right.
Really.
Yeah. And bless them. God bless them.
so many other better instruments out there that you can play in front of these kids, but the recorder, for whatever reason,
right?
I don't know if they think it's easy to learn how to play or whatever.
Sure.
But
yeah, I guess I don't know.
So, but before I let you go, is that if people want to check out your music or any upcoming shows, anything you got going on, where's the best place for them to do that?
Oh, all the streaming services that we have it on there, Spotify. I try to keep that updated pretty regularly. We've got, we do the extra thing with the pictures and all that fun stuff. So, Spotify, Facebook, Thousand Oxen Fury. Those are the two main things. We also have Instagram and Twitter and all that good stuff. It's not as active, but
yeah,
definitely Facebook and Spotify. We'll have all the music, and any of shows that we eventually play will be listed there too.
Okay, so I got to ask, because you brought up Facebook, and this is something that I've been infuriated with over the last few weeks. Have you noticed that not to get too technical for the people that aren't technically social media people, have you noticed your engagement has gone down on Facebook over the last month? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So it's not just me. So,
yeah. I was like, it's either something's going on or people are losing interest.
Yeah. Because I was sitting there, I was like, I posted something the other day and I was like, okay, I'll wake up in the morning and we'll have, I could almost count for sure, and know exactly how many hits or, retweets or whatever we'd have.
Sure.
And we had like 20% of what we normally have. And I'm
Oh,
like,
wow.
all right, well, let me see what's going on here. So
Right.
that's interesting. And
Yeah, I don't know. They do some weird things over there sometimes.
yeah, for sure. But I do want to thank you for jumping on. I really appreciate it. Thank you,
Absolutely.
everybody. Thank you for everybody that's been hanging out with us all day. I hope you'll continue to hang out with us. We have Leanne Skoda coming up next. I'm really excited to talk to her. If you want to donate, there should be links in the comment sections below, or you can go to our Facebook page. It should be right there in front of you. There's two ways to donate. It's the Wage Hope My Way, which is the PanCan fundraiser portal, or we also have it set up through Facebook. You can fund or donate either way, it counts. So would really appreciate it if you can. Anything helps to help fight pancreatic cancer and build awareness, and hopefully one day raise the survival rate past 10%, because that is where it is currently at. But we will be right back in a few minutes with Leanne Skoda. Cool.